Hello, this is Akiko Sudano at stampinthemeadows.com in Downingtown, Pennsylvania. And welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. Let me check and make sure that I am in the right spot here. Hold on just a second. Let me find my video on my page. Oh, maybe that's... No. Let me refresh my page here. Okay, there we go. All right, hold on just a second. And as soon as I get this up so that I can see everything, then I will... come on, here we go. Okay, I think I'm ready. All right, again, thank you so much for watching today. And I am going to make a card featuring the Stampin Up Rustic Harvest Designer Series paper. I used that on my blog this morning in my card, and so I wanted to continue with that paper. Here in Pennsylvania, we've had, hi Amy, thank you so much for joining me. We had, the days are getting shorter, but we had our first frost here this morning, and so it's like fall is upon us. And so before we get started too far in, let me just show you the different designs that you have with this paper. You've got the mossy meadow with the swirls and the crushed curry, and then you've got this design with the vegetables and stuff, and that's the one that I'm using today. You've also got the crushed curry, chilly morning for sure. Yes, Cheryl. The not crushed curry. This is Cajun craze with all the little bubbles going, and the back sides of all of these papers have a black and white design, and so on the Cajun craze version you have all the falling leaves, and this is so pretty. I believe that I used this on a card previously where I just sponged the different leaves a different color, so it's very, very versatile. And then you've got the all the pumpkins, and on that back of that you've got the diagonal stripes, which that would be good for Halloween. And then here is the floral pattern, which is just beautiful, and that's the one that I used on my card this morning. And here's the one that we're going to be using today. And I definitely have to show you the back of the mossy meadow, because you've got all of the beautiful black and white plaid designs. And then on the back of this, on the back of the this is crushed curry. You've got all of the little acorns with the oak leaves and stuff, and that's really pretty too. So one of the things that I have seen is recently is that, and I've done some sponging with some of the other designs, but I've seen cards where demonstrators have gone in and colored the pumpkins, and they've used this design, and it really comes out beautiful. So I thought to myself, well, let me go ahead and because I really love this this vegetable paper, and so let me go ahead and use that same technique of coloring the different pumpkins and use this paper and stuff, because you've got the same kind of thing where you've got all the beautiful vegetables, and then you've got the white areas, and it's just a little bit harsh for me. And so this is my sample card, and you can see that I've colored the vegetables here, and let me just go show you how I did that. So I'm going to do the same thing with this little panel here. And what I did was, on all of the places where the background was crushed curry, I used my Stampin Blends, and I used the Light Daffodil Delight Stampin Blend, and I just basically colored over the crushed curry and the white parts, and it really does a nice job of just toning it down a little bit, and it's not quite as harsh on the eye, but you still have the beautiful, you've still got the beautiful texture and depth of color, and it just kind of tones it down a little bit. Hi Chris, thank you so much for joining me. And so I colored all of the different yellow portions with the white highlights in the Daffodil Delight, and I used all the light Stampin' Blends. For the oranges, I think that's actually Cajun Craze. They both start with C, and it's mixing me up. And with the Cajun Craze, I used the light pumpkin pie. So I'm going to color my pumpkins with the light pumpkin pie, and I think it really makes it, really steps it up. And I bet that they intended, the Stampin' Up! Designers intended for, since we've got the black and white, for you to be able to do additional coloring techniques on the various designer series patterns in this paper pack for doing that. See how it just makes it lighter? Okay, then on the green, so I used, that's the light pumpkin pie on the Cajun Craze portions, and anywhere where it was the green, which is a mossy meadow, I'm using the light old olive. Yeah, Cheryl, I was really impressed with when I first saw this, and then I saw another demonstrator, and again they used the pattern with all of the pumpkins, and I thought that it really made such a difference. And then the nice thing about this too is the background is black, so you don't have to be, if you go over it, it's fine. It doesn't really matter. So any place where it's green, I'm using the light old olive to kind of go over it. And when I saw this, I really liked the vegetable paper, because I felt like the vegetable paper would be a really nice background for any of the stamps that you have for vegetables. And I went into the catalog and I saw the Eclectic Garden stamp set, and I think there's been so many, but I keep thinking of avocado stamps, and this one also has artichoke. Well, there's avocado stamps too, but the artichoke stamp, and then it's got the radishes also. So that would be a good kind of background that for those stamps. And then for the acorns and and I think I'm going to make this stem also soft suede. I'm using the light soft suede for that. Hi, Karen. Thank you so much for joining me. And I think that would be such a nice background for those kinds of stamps. And they would be also good for anything where if you've got a friend that you want to give something to who is a chef or does a lot of great cooking. And then I was also thinking this would be a perfect kind of background for a card, for like a thank you card for a friend that is a big gardener that's given you all of the zucchinis from their garden this year. So I know we've had a lot of that, and that would be a good way to remember them too, because this particular cut doesn't have it, but there's a summer squash, but there are zucchinis on this paper too. But I just love the design of this paper, and I love the idea of the vegetables. So I'm coloring the acorns, and then I colored this stem. I'm going to color a little bit more of this. Now all the curly cues, I left the curly cues white. Then I'm going to go ahead, and these oak leaves, I'm going to go ahead and leave those with the old olive, the light old olive, leave those green, because our oak leaves, even though it's really cold these days, and our oak leaves haven't started turning. We've had some leaves turning. The maple leaves are starting to turn, and some of the other things. We haven't had too many things falling, and the season's definitely not a peak yet, but fall is starting to be here. And just to cut down on some of that white so that it's so that it's not quite so harsh. Softens it up, and it's pretty. Now, for these leaves that are in the Mary Merlot, I am going to use the Light Fresh Freesia Stampin' Blend, and I found that this really, really worked pretty. It gave it some nice highlights. There we go. Because the Fresh Freesia does a nice job of bringing a little bit of blue in with the pinks there. So I think I got everything colored. And again, the stems and the curly cues, I've just left those in the white. So those are the Stampin' Blends that I used, and I think that you can use these on any of the papers if you decide to take this technique with some of the other papers. So this is the sample that I've colored, and you can see that against the original background and how much softer it looks with the without the white highlights. But you still have the highlights of the vegetables. And again, this is the paper that I'd seen some people do it originally too, and this would be perfect for any kind of Thanksgiving or Halloween kind of backdrop. So the next thing that I'm going to do is with my card, and I've decided I'm going to go ahead and, you know what, I'm going to do one more thing before I start talking about the layout. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stamp my sentiment. And I'm using the Love and Warmth sentiment from the Ring with Nature stamp set. And what I wanted basically to have a theme where I'm using the rectangles, and this allowed me to use the little stitched rectangle die. And so I'm going to stamp it, and I'm going to use crushed curry as my card base for this card and for my sentiment here. So I'm going to stamp it in Memento Tuxedo Black on the crushed curry. So that's all ready. So when I go to die cut, I can die cut this guy, and then I can cut this guy also, and I could do those pretty much at the same time. So let me bring out my stitched rectangles dies and show you something else that I realized just very recently, because this this little sketch where you have the offset rectangles is really a nice sketch, and it's a go-to. Hi, Chi. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's really a nice little sketch for that I've used this kind of basic sketch for a long time. But what I've done in the past is I've always used it so that the rectangles are the same. But when I went today to do this, and I had noticed this before in some of the others, that if you have the background rectangle be just slightly larger than the foreground rectangle, then it ends up giving you a better balance, I think. So for this card and for today's card, I used the stitched rectangles dies, and I used the third largest for the background rectangle and the fourth largest for the smaller rectangle. And then you get a little bit more of the background peeking through when you don't have them the same colors. And so what I did with this, and the reason I chose this sentiment, well, first of all, I thought that was a nice sentiment for a just a generic fall kind of card, because it's got the warmth thing in there too. And I'm going to just use the little label, and that fit perfectly from the Stitch Rectangles dies. So I'm going to take this over to my die cutting machine behind me, and I'm going to cut these out. All right, and I'll be right back. So let's see here. I'll just run this through. And basic thing just is to make sure I'm not too wonky. With this sentiment and the fonts that they use, it's just, I think you've got a lot of wiggle room for making it a little bit less, it doesn't have to be exactly precise. So that works out well. There's the sentiment, and I will cut out the vegetables. Have to turn my die over. There we go. And I'll have all of the sizes in my blog tomorrow of all the cardstock cuts and the colors that I used and everything, so you can check back on that. Okay, so here's my sentiment, and here is my vegetable thing. So I think that we are ready to go ahead and assemble the card. So the first thing, now with this card, I have this as a top folding card, and so I made my sample a top folding card, and with this one I've got the ribbon wrapped all the way around it. So if you want to make this a side folding card, like a book fold card, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to take this and make this smaller so that you've got a frame. I thought about it, but I did not like the idea of the ribbon going this way. I thought the ribbon was easier on the eye if it goes sideways like that. So I have myself a crushed curry card base, and it's a top folding card base. And the first thing that I'm going to do is adhere the designer series paper to go all around it. And for this card, what I wanted was the designer series paper to go edge to edge, because I felt that everything is so busy, and it's just a little cleaner, so that I'm better off not having the extra cuts in the design to break the view of things. So I have this one on here. And this is cut 4 1/4 by 5. And what I've done basically is I'm basically reversing these two papers for this card. And then I'm going to put the Mossy Meadow one on top here. The other thing that I debated was whether or not I wanted to mat these panels, and I've decided to put these panels directly on with liquid glue, as opposed to putting it on a mat. And my first tendency was to put it on a mat, but I put this on there. I thought it doesn't really need it. I think I'm okay without it. So I decided to just go ahead and not use a mat on these panels, and then just put it on directly, because you can see the stitching nicely and on the rectangles and everything. I thought it was fine, and that kept it nice and simple. So, and the thing I love about this kind of a sketch is that you can put these rectangles on any which way. They're wonky. You don't have to worry about lining them up. So it's a lot easier to keep things. You don't have to worry as much about keeping things lined up and straight and even, which makes it a really easy sketch, I think, to play with. And then I love this black and white gingham ribbon, and I think it goes beautifully, and it really looks nice with the thing here. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this around, and let's make sure I'm in the camera, and tie it in a bow. And I'm going to try to make the bow off to the side here so that I can get room for my label. Just tie this on. hopefully we're good. Okay, good. Yeah, okay, now I'll straighten it out. Let's check and make sure I've got room for the label. Yeah, I got room for the label. Straighten it out. Make sure it's even. Come on. Maybe if I open it up, I can. This side looks like it's a little higher to me, so it needs to come down. There we go. There we go. And that's okay. So leave that on there, and then I'm going to even these loops out a bit. Make sure I pull the right side for doing that. It's always a challenge. There we go. I think that's good. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little glue dot, and I'm going to go ahead and put it in the back of the bow to secure the bow, so that if something comes unraveled, then at least things are going to stay fairly put, so that they can be put back together. There we go. I'm still good. Yeah, I'm still good. Down a little bit. There we go. All right. And then the label, I have my little half dimensional here, and I'm going to put my half dimensionals kind of on the top and bottom edges. And then my ribbon can straddle on the inside. And that way, if my dimensionals have something, oh, thank you so much. Hi, Danette. Thank you so much for joining me. Stay in here. There we go. And then once I get this down, then I can, there we go. All right. Do it this way. And bring it down here. I'm going to move this guy up here. And so the big thing here, since the sentiment is a little bit, it has got that nice wild font, is just to make sure that the edge lines up with the edge of the card. The edge of the label lines up with the edge of the card, and that you don't get ribbon stuck underneath. There we go. There we go. Okay. Now we can trim the ribbon. And one of the things that I always do is I feel like I'm being wasteful, but I always use extra long ribbon for tying my bows like this, so that I know that I've got, because my fingers aren't as adept as they used to be, but that way I can have a little bit more flexibility in tying the bows. So one of the things that to finish it, I decide to use, and on my sample card, I'm using the classic matte dots, and you've got the white dots, the ivory gray, and the vanilla, and the gray, and the black. So I'm going to use a black one, I think, here, just to see how it looks, because you still have the black background, and the black in the bow, and the black in the lines. So so it works out well. So this is the front of the card. For the inside of the card, I'm going to go back to the Hello Harvest stamp set, and this is the little squiggly, and I just put a little squiggly in the corner there. And doing that in Memento Tuxedo Black, which is right here. Good. And just stamp that in the corner. Oops, that's really messy. Let's try this again. Right here. There, much cleaner, much better. go down and back up, straight down, straight back up. And then I have another piece of the Designer Series paper that I had previously colored, and so I'm going to glue that to the bottom. And I want to put some of the red, make sure I've got some of the red on there, so I'll make sure I have my glue. Am I barely in the picture here? Put some glue on my paper here. Come on. There we go. Here, this to the bottom. I think I'm okay, but check my back. Yep, trim the extra off. And then adhere the panel to the inside of my card with the stamp and seal. There we go. There we go. Line it up. There we go. And that's my card. Thank you so much for joining me, and have a happy fall, and thank you so much, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye, everyone.